Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Ron, broadcasting to you from the Pineless Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios with RDB online with me tonight in the great Midwest. We're going to be talking about Miami Vice Season 1, Episode 7, No Exit, a.k.a. the Bruce Willis episode. And I apologize for the late starting time. I had some German Shepherd scenarios that I had to take care of here that necessitated that, because when it all comes down to it, they are a priority in my life. And I appreciate you holding the line there, RDB. But tonight, Bruce Willis, I haven't seen this episode in quite a long time. The I've Got the Juice episode. I think this is a fantastic episode. My initial thoughts here, RDV, and we'll dive into some of the scenes and things that we like about it and everything here too. And there's two main reasons for it. And I'm going to ignore the main cast here for the part. I'm going to talk about the just show itself, the execution of it. One, it's directed by David Soul, a.k.a. Mr. Flipper, a.k.a. Starsky and Hutch guy.
Yeah, Starsky.
So there's some interesting camera angles in here. But the thing that I'm starting to pick up on a bit more that I've mentioned before that I don't think's been very apparent, and I know you're personally watching it offline, you're getting to season 3 now, and so it should start becoming a bit more apparent, but there's a bit of a cynicism that actually worms its way into some of these episodes. This one clearly has it to me. I'll point out some key things that lead to it. It's not what the episode's about, but when everyone says, oh, it's just a lighthearted 80s, action cop kind of thing that is, just Miami Vice and music and MTV and all, I disagree completely. It's about, hey, no matter what we do, it's still not enough in a way. And again, it's not that hard in here, but that's the bit of the shock rating, which we'll talk about here too. But it's one of the first episodes I think very heavily does it.
Bruce Willis was 29 years old during the filming of this. Or they're just about to turn 30. I think he's like November. I can't remember his birth month is, but this was the first episode in this series that deals with spousal abuse. But also, two cops are basically forced to watch this, but cannot intervene. Eventually, because they're trying to get dirt on him because he's a guy, he's a well-known arms dealer. That's Bruce Willis's character. And so they send Tubbs in undercover to try and buy some arms with him. Well, Crockett is basically having a meltdown because he wants to go talk to the wife and try to convince her to leave her husband. But she won't, because she says, every time you guys do this, he gets away with it. He gets away with it. And it really hits home what kind of what episodes is going to be, Well,
did you think that when she makes those comments there, it's just her talking? Did you not at the time realize that it was significant?
No,
that's the thing about the episode. Sometimes you just go, blah, 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 blah.
No.
Okay, what's going to happen?
The ending does catch me off guard with this because, first watch, because
good setup.
but here's the thing. If you think about it, this is a very cliche thing where spouse abuse, sometimes the victims do take revenge on the abuser, but that's not always the case. So I wouldn't know. I wasn't going to know what they're going to do. But at the time, it was like I was trying to think, because I'm watching it from in the year 2025, 26 when I was first watching this, and I'm thinking with that brain, oh, this is the star Bruce Willis. There's no way they would kill him off. No, then I realized, no, this is Bruce Willis before he became famous. This is what the thing that made him put him on the map. So with him, getting off at the end, I'm sorry, but if anyone hasn't watched this, it's free on Tubi. You can watch it whenever you want to, but still a great episode. It's still very heavily just basically focusing on the topic. It's like, they're told to let the abuse go on, told to stand down because they want to arrest them for other stuff. And they're also working with I believe the FBI too. And yeah, it's like their hands are tied. And I said, this is really another one. The very first season, you get to see Don Johnson, just basically how he handles his character, handling, stuff he cannot control. And he's kind of trying to break his nerve. They already dealt with Menendez earlier in the season now. And then they had a friend who just previously who was bumped off because by Farino. So you think about this. This is okay. We're in episode like 7, and we're already 7 episodes in, and just look how much shit he's gone through. Both of them, they should have PTSD. Both of them.
Well, it's interesting because like I've said before, and this is one of the things about when you write something or whatever. I mean, you can make it be whatever you want. People read whatever they want it to, but this this is what I would call a generic thing. It's an arms dealing thing, right? Okay, they
Mhm.
got to catch the bad guy, blah blah blah. So the interesting thing that struck me, and I don't know how many slides we have or what we're looking at, but early on, right before the opening song, which again is now pretty much
Yeah.
mostly established, we get the sweaty, steamy morning, whatever, and you see all these old people, and I think that's probably South Beach right there, the heart of it, and all that. The glitzy one that has changed in the past generation or so. And back then, that's exactly what Miami was like. It was not the
Yeah.
greatest of places, very old Florida, and all these old people in the background. I kind of popped though because I'm like, yeah, that's what I remember when I would go to Miami being young.
On
And
Ocean Drive. Yeah.
yeah, and this one of the reasons why I picked this shot here in this frame too is because that's exactly what the sky looks like. And you see a lot of people in sandals, and fashion-wise, people always like to joke about sandals, or like if you're in Texas, you might have a big hat or whatever like that. And there's old expression, big
Yep.
hat for cattle in here. But they dress, and forget the color scheme. That's Floridian dress. Old people sitting there talking, they're on the beach, and now you
Yep.
go down there and it's completely remodeled different, but that's
They
what it looks like.
and the thing is, they were set up to do an arms deal with Sonny and stuff. It was going to do it with the guys, but turns out there's all these civilians here. They're not supposed to be here. So they're like, oh crap, and Castillo's like, we should probably cut off, but they go, but then the guys show up, and Sonny's made, and they drive away in their van. Second time we've seen the van last episode. We had the guy, or actually no, I'm thinking of another one I was watching with Willie Nelson. That's later in season 3. But a van pulls up, and all of a sudden it fires the M60.
It's a bad van because of the condition it's in.
Yeah. Well, it's the one they were chasing the guy the Jamaicans in.
Yeah, I know, right?
Same type, everything. It might even be the same van, for all we know. And it opens up
the next episode.
it opens up with an M60 in there, and just firing into the crowd, and it's just like, what the heck? And then so, but this is the guy, this is the van. You can see how the doors kind of. It's not that great of a van. This looks like a van that somebody may have, been living in. Got some bodily juices in there. It looks gross.
It's the old ice cream truck van, if you know what that means. For kids.
2 scoops or none.
Well, the thing is like this picture here is a little bit later on, and I picked it because he's got the members only jacket on, and him and his partner were going crazy.
I wonder if that's why
he thought was really, really popular.
It's got the Velcro.
Kind of funny. They provided a contrast because this is actually when the plot gets interesting. So, like you say, trying to stay a little linear here. I think Tubbs overacts a little bit here, and I think Don Johnson's acting is a bit odd. I don't know if that's the way it's filmed, but I still get the idea of it. Okay, they're trying to get this guy, and when they go to set up the surveillance in the house,
the Tony Amato.
Yeah, they put the bugs in there, and this is one of the first times we saw it in a few others, but this is the first times we're going to see this a lot more. You get to see inside some swanky Miami crib, basically, or whatever, with the glass box and everything. I thought, oh, this architecture is fantastic. I feel like I'm walking up the stairs and looking outside the windows. It's incredible, right? And they're setting up everything. They brought in the one guy to kind of help him out, and he explains to you and the viewer what's going on. So like, yeah, we'll watch them from the bay because they're on this boat. And that's when the federales show up or whatever. And okay, we're gonna have the feds to be like, well, we want in on this case. Well, no thanks, pal, and all that. But there's more to that rather than just being a dopey interference. I didn't realize that at the time either. But when they start to eavesdrop and they're watching, I personally like this RDV because I like voyeuristic stuff because it's information when you're not really supposed to be there. Huh?
Body Double? Wasn't that all about watching?
Body Double. That's tremendous. That's a fantastic movie, right? Highly recommended, and catch our review here on the Extreme Movie Show.
I'm just saying, wasn't that all about watching somebody else in from apartment building and from another room?
Yeah, but I think what it is that, again, it's like a private thing. It's like a fantasy thing, and everybody has them. And our world is very voyeuristic, right? And to get information with cops, and to think they can just come into your place for no reason, or listen to your devices currently and all that, it hasn't gone away. But what happens is it allows us to see Bruce Willis before the Bruce Willis everybody thinks of, right? Here's the thing about Bruce Willis. Everyone thinks of moonlighting, a wise, cracking kind of guy, jokey guy, die-hard action guy, whatever you want to call it. But here, and obviously he's older now, has memory issues. But here's the thing. He does such a fucking good job of being an unrepentant, smug bastard asshole in here.
Yeah.
It's hard because a lot of people, like Jim Carrey, I love him as an actor.
Jim
But I
Carrey
look at him
and
as a comedy guy. He couldn't pull this off, I don't think.
Jim
I'd love to see him
Carrey.
try, but I don't think he could. But Bruce Willis, immediately while they're watching him, his wife is pretty demure or whatever like that,
Yeah.
and they're getting ready to go out to a function. And he's like, well, "What are you doing? What are you wearing?" And he's yelling at her, "Go put that on!" and all that. And then he just ups it. And he's probably only on screen 5 minutes, not even.
No, yeah,
It
he
seems like a
basically
half hour, right?
yeah, and then like before she had another dress on, and he basically pushed her into the pool, and they got back. He pushed her in, you know, and she's in there, and just like he's just losing.
So
And
later on, he rapes her.
Yeah, yep.
After bitch slapping her a few
So
times.
they're forced to watch all this stuff here's going on. Meanwhile, Tubbs has to go undercover and buy some stuff. And this is when Tubbs finds out that they're selling Stinger missiles.
Yes.
And it changes everything to what's going on. And it's just like, okay, and these are missiles that were stolen from the National Guard Armory. And the FBI had an idea feeling that, that Tony Amato had them. He's the one that stole them from the armory. And they're trying to pin it on him. And I kept thinking, like, man, this would be a great scene where they just blow up, Sonny's car. But that's later in another arms dealer. so yeah, it's kind of crazy. So yeah.
What did you think of? So here's the thing. Uzi's on a street in a retirement area of South Beach at the time. Pretty crazy. Okay, but it's TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we find out that it's military grade kind of stuff and stolen, there's no story behind why it is where it's just the fact things go missing. Things end up on black markets. Here you go. So it ups the ante a little bit, and the feds are cooperating with them.
Yeah.
I mean, they just are. So here's the thing. I thought it kind of takes a serious tone on two beats here. One is this, slide that you got here with Bruce Willis up there while he's undercover, where he's like, "I want the demonstration, man," and he's got the accent. And
he always does that. Yeah, Rico.
Yeah, but it's fine, and
yeah,
Bruce is like, "This is costing me a lot of money," and then they show the footage and all that, and then it's weird because like the laughing members only bad guy of his is the guy's like, "No, man, Uncle Sam paid me to learn how to do it. Let me show you." And you're like, "Wait a minute, is it that easy to learn how to use really dangerous equipment and then do something bad with it?" And that line is there, and that's where it goes up in ante. But the second most impressive part about this is they're eavesdropping on the woman.
Yeah,
the wife is getting beat, and she gets a call, and she says, "You want me to call somebody?" She knows somebody, and they do a meeting. Crockett shows up, and he watches this pervy-looking dude, and he just flashes his badge and just says, "Get out." And the guy leaves.
Yeah,
because what it is, she's decided she's going to have a hitman kill him. And of course, Sonny goes in and says, "You looking for me?" And they talk. And then Dan, she's like, "I don't think I can do it, not this way." And he's like, "Well, it's good because I'm a cop," and da 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 da. And they bring her in.
Yeah.
"Hey, we got your house booked. Just give us a day or two." And I thought this is kind of ballsy because the wife, instead of just being an object to get beat on, she now wants to get him whacked. This is not going to end well.
Yeah. So basically, this is crazy too. Yeah. She received a phone call from the hitman arranged by her friend, and then she goes to the meets and then Crockett goes and he meets and scares off the hitman with his badge. And then before meeting her in her place, she tells Crockett that her husband, she hates her husband, fears for her life. There's no way to break free. And he said once she hired a divorce lawyer on advice of a police, and Amato had his man rape the lawyer's wife and threatened to do the same to the daughter if he didn't drop the case.
Yeah.
And but so she concludes that she cannot bring herself to have Amato killed. And Crockett, being relieved, reveals himself as a cop and takes her down to the precinct, where he and Tubbs ask her for help bringing down her husband illegally. She says, well, she'll have to go back to him and act as if everything is normal. And she's like, "Don't worry, the house has been bugged and we'll close by, we'll be close by. Anything can happen." And she doesn't really like it because of the fact that she knows her husband's smart, and she's, so after Tubbs meets with Amato and stuff and talk on stuff, they actually they go to down by Pappas, OCB, and Pappas basically one of the agents. He says, he makes it clear that he intends to bust Amato and recover stingers. He told Crockett, he says, Crockett and Castillo, "You guys can have Amato. I just want the stingers." And it does
reasonable.
Yeah, sounds reasonable. And things start to fall through though. The problem is though, it's like they move it. The FBI moves in early. And even though Tubbs is still trying to do this, causes Tubbs to get in a hot seat. And Yeah, so they basically the vice cops basically at the end we get they arrest him. They get Bruce Willis. They're about to arrest him, and the FBI said, well, he's just gonna walk anyway.
They meet him on the steps.
Yeah, they basically want to make a deal. They want to make him be their informant.
He's been an informant.
Yeah,
and that's when it hits you that when the wife had mentioned before, this always happens. He always gets away with it. He ends up getting arrested by some local cops in some place, and it's not really the FBI because he just mentions, well, it's really Central and South America. He's very vital to certain things. What he is, and this is a direct reference to what was going on at the time, where arms are being sold by the FBI or CIA or certain organizations from the United States government to rebels to overthrow governments in Central and South America.
Because
he's the go-between, so they need to have him free because he's
the
their puppet.
FBI made a big deal on the beginning of this episode saying like they feared that he was going to sell these stingers to the terrorists and to take out a jetliner.
Yes.
Flight of we had that flight was I forget what it's called, 87 or what it was.
I don't remember which one it was.
It was in the 80s. Yeah, one of the airliners that gets shot down.
Yeah.
By missile. So he sees also this car pulls up and he's in handcuffs. He turns around and he's like,
he's working like a bastard.
I know. Well, he's like, Rita, you're here. And then all of a sudden she's like, no. And all of a sudden Crockett's like, no. He jumps in, but it's too late. She shoots him. And now and then I can't remember. She goes to jail then. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they do this well. They actually have where they cut off the episode, or sometimes there's no ending.
That is the ending. It's the emotion of it.
No, well, sometimes they actually like they're going to go arrest the bad guy, and then we get to see him do that. It cuts off right there. I've noticed that, and especially in the second season. I'm like, okay, but I wanted to see the rest of the episode.
That's the whole point. It's that's the negative part of like a lot of 60s going into 70s television cinema, where it can be a bit jaded, and so in the 80s a lot of things were saccharine sweet, or they tried to get messagey and all that. But the thing about it too is like I said, it seemed like a throwaway line. The woman's not ugly, but she's very demure or whatever. You don't know their story, but the fact that she wants to have him killed, she goes, you guys, he always gets away with this, and the fact that she tells them about how, what happened before, and she's been through all this. If you're not looking at it from her perspective and you're not really watching it, then this might come as a surprise, but it's so blatant that I love it, because at the end, he's basically, and this is the sarcasm that's not funny to me. He's kind of smirking at them and he goes, yeah, guys, told you, I'll be out here in just a few minutes. Yeah, I got the juice. And she comes out, bam. And it's like, no, you didn't, right? And it's almost like funny, and ironic, like how
she could have easily done this at the house when it had not the same impact. But it makes it more, the fact that it's on the steps going into the courthouse.
Well, I think what it is her character kind of is what Tubbs and Crockett can't be, because they're cops, they're emotional. I always thought Tubbs was overacting on the beach early on where they get shot at, and he's like, he's strong-arming the bad guy that they caught trying to get the information. I mean, it's like, I don't like being shot at. It makes me feel blah, 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 and I want to be at my best. It's like almost stupid in a way, kind of like, kind of cringy. But the point is they're both emotional and they can't do what they're trying to do the right thing. And she represents the struggle they have, because to your point, when you mention all the stuff Sonny's been through, and even Tubbs a little bit, you get it, right? And it's not really like a fun, happy episode either, especially with being a complete bastard.
1984, they're showing you how corrupt the system was even back then.
Exactly. And
which is interesting.
A lot of shows didn't do it. At first, it was cops being bumming idiots or eating donuts, or like T.J. Hooker would get ready to start.
You had a lot of positive cop stuff where they didn't have this anti-government.
Correct. Anti-government before was was more like when we did the Dirty Harrys, going back to the David Soul. He was, I think, in the second Dirty Harry, right? It was one of the road cops and all that. It was the system's bad, and so we're anti.
You know why?
Systems.
Missing in Action came out this year. 84.
Well, I think
so. It's just starting.
Thing, it really made everybody cynical on it. That and the JFK assassination.
Well, yes, the JFK assassination. The guy who supposedly killed him is dead, and then the guy who knows about it gets bumped off too. It just smelled like a conspiracy. And
then at one point went through, because they think he sold arms to
the Watergate scandal, but was that real, or is that just planned to be a smear tactic?
it was real.
Well, I mean, it's a real scandal, but I'm just saying, but like I said, like, was he doing anything illegal though? That's my thing.
Well, the cover-up's usually
the
illegal part to it. And
people also ignore that these two guys broke legally into the White House. How did they get in?
Well, who's to say they weren't invited? I mean, you got to understand,
Exactly.
Liddy, who actually plays here in Miami Vice, got really popular because of this whole Miami Vice thing, and then later on had the G. Gordon Liddy show and all that, because he was the brains behind it, all that too. And it was a setup from the CIA anyway.
Yeah. And also, you'll remember after Kennedy's assassination, the media said conspiracy. They created up that word, conspiracy. So, and that to make anybody who has a rational idea, you're a loony. So discredit you.
I tell you what was weird, and this seems a little off topic, but in the 80s, one thing that really became a bit popular was you started hearing something that one of the best TV shows that Netflix ever did was a show called was it Manhunter or Mindhunters?
Mindhunters, that one, because Manhunter's a movie.
It's phenomenal acting, and it's about the serial killers, in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and how it became a thing, because very few of them existed in society. So there's a lot of theories about it.
Well, yeah, Summer Sam, so many of them.
You definitely had people interested in the occult in the mainstream. That had been a while in the 60s and 70s in Hollywood, but prevalent in cultural stuff. But you also had people like interested in, the famous book was Helter Skelter. So the whole stuff that we just saw in Quentin Tarantino's movie in the ranch with Sharon Tate getting wiped out and all that. I mean, so it's kind of like weird, like movies like E.T. and Disney stuff's playing, but then there's this other brutal, dark stuff that's out there that's like people weren't paying attention to. And you got to understand, in '84 at this time, Reagan just got voted in a landslide, or was getting ready to be. Everything was pro-America. It was 84, so interest rates went down from their historically high 12, 13, 16% down to whatever. People started having money. People were starting to have a lot of fun. And this is the last time you had the biggest sweep ever. And also, the Olympics were just got through, and they were in Los Angeles at the time.
You also had the Gen Xers who were really just pretty much all about, they're done with all that Vietnam stuff before that. They just wanted to relax, have fun, enjoy life.
That Hardy theme song, "Live for the Moment."
Yep.
I mean, seriously. Yeah, and honestly, what was kind of interesting too to the older generation like me, music wise, because I'm an '80s teenager, is how we haven't talked music in a few episodes, right? I thought the score was pretty good here by Jan Hammer. But they're playing a Tender Pendergrass song, and he was just getting raped. And I'm like, oh no. He's known for his ladies only stuff. And Teddy Pendergrass got popped. He had already been popped.
Well,
he had a tragic car accident at one point.
The score was "I Don't Care Anymore," Phil Collins in the beginning,
and at the end.
They're
driving and they're just playing the keyboard.
Which is funny though, because Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer was basically it would be another one he'd sample, and Better Living Through Chemistry. And then you had Tim Truman would also copy Eric Clapton's "She's Waiting" and Lost Madonna. So a lot of people are just sampling other people's music in this time for their stuff. So
don't knock the whole thing in the 80s and 70s was electronic music, synthwave stuff, and I go back to John Carpenter.
Synthwave made the show what it is, man. It's
a mood.
Yeah. Especially not to mention that we're starting to get a saxophone in the 80s here.
Yes.
So
that was called adult-oriented contemporary music. It was a different chart, actually, area of music that would play.
When the Eagles kind of disbanded for a little bit, and Glenn Frey started going solo. You Belong to the City.
Yep.
That hit Smuggler's Run. He started writing songs for Miami Vice, and it's like, wow, it just took off. You had Phil Collins, doing Rat Race in season 2 episode, and just you had all these big names were popping up on the show, and it was just this show just took off. This was like. People want to be on like if you were a celebrity or upcoming celebrity, you wanted to be on the show because this show was so hot. It was going to launch your career. The guy who plays Gustavo Fringe, and I forgot what his name is. It's DiMarcarlo. I forgot his name. He basically was in 3 episodes. Lawrence Fishburne appears in season 3. Like I said, there's so many celebrities that are popping up in here too.
You get a betting one that has Bill Russell in it and someone else there too, and I'm like, even my dad's like, is that Bill Russell? I'm like, I don't know. I'm 12, Dad. Who's Bill Russell? Then he tells me about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that
Well,
guy.
that's
He
the
plays
thing
like a
too.
crooked judge, right?
Willie Nelson plays a retired Texas Ranger getting revenge for his fallen.
This hasn't
in.
happened yet in
No.
Miami Vice, but it would. And what I'm pointing out that's key in here is not Bruce Willis, although he represents, like you're saying, the hot celebrity. But it's that ending where no matter what Crockett and Tubbs do, no matter how hard they try to do the right thing, and
things don't always work out.
Right. And that's the cynicism that isn't always going to be there, but it's there, but people ignore it because of the flash. Yes.
It pops up. Crockett starts falling for a woman and she's dirty. Same with Gina, falls for a man. It turns out he's part of the IRA. That's Liam Neeson. Like I said, you get these things where they and it's like, and yeah, there's an episode, I think it's end of season 1 or maybe season 2, where Crockett Tubbs have to go to New York. And that's, Crockett falls in love with this girl and he has this long, like a couple of, or long-lasting relationship with her and stuff, and then turns out that she's actually working for the guy he's trying to go after and stuff, and he's being used, and he's torn because he loves her, and then there's another, and then he finds another woman later in the series where he falls madly in love with her, but she can't handle him being a cop. It's just like it's his wife all over again.
Yes.
And so it's like this show had its angles, cliche kind of trope dramas you'd have in TV shows. Without the laughs, but for most part, like I said, you're going to see Crockett and Tubbs going through a lot of shit, a lot of cynical stuff. Like to this, like I said, they did everything by the book. They try to do the right thing. They want to save everyone. They want to protect people, but sometimes it's out of their hands. The woman kills Bruce Willis at the end. It kills her husband. Then she goes to jail. Prior episode, one of his friends he knew, she was going to gambling debt, and she ends up getting whacked off. And then her husband, who now is a surviving husband, has 3 kids, at home, goes to take revenge and she goes to shoot and kills the guy. Now he's going to jail. Now the kids they're going to go into foster home. It's like they do everything they can to stop this. They don't want any of this, they don't want anyone getting killed. But unfortunately, it does happen. Season 3, there's a drug bust, and they're forced to. This corrupt DA wants to use this kid to go after this other drug, and like it's just sometimes, I can understand why Crockett gets so pissed off, because no matter what you do, try to be a nice person, there's always people who are going to screw you over and screw other people over in the process.
And it's usually the higher ups too.
And your hands are tied.
You always got the scum of the streets,
which kind of sounds.
There's another supply of it, but that's the thing about the show. It shows how it affects people.
Yes, and also may sound cliche because we saw that with Eddie Murphy and with his chief always yelling at him.
I'll say this: it sounds simple and it works. You don't need to try to change it.
No.
You have an opening gambit. It works. It's tied into the episode. It's something we're used to. The voyeuristic thing is simple enough, but we're watching the inside private lives of 2 people we normally wouldn't, high society, powerful people, and Bruce Willis, and the evil that goes on behind closed doors. You don't know what's going on with your neighbors or who you meet. A guy could be a pimp on the street, but is that any different than a guy that's a corrupt judge or an FBI guy with an informant that uses Bruce Willis? We don't know because we're not playing there, and that's what makes it feel kind of evil, because it seems like the worst things, not the people that are selling the drugs or guns or prostituting people out or any of that kind of stuff or getting into fights. It's the system that protects them. And that's the thing that I'm going to be paying attention to as the season goes on.
The other thing I want to point out, this is also, we had a guy, Maurice Hurley, who did the teleplay for this. This is a guy who worked on Firebird 2015 AD, was a movie from 81. No one's ever heard of it. Equalizer, he did 9 episodes of that from 85 to 86.
Control.
Yeah. Star Trek Next Generation, 12 episodes. He was also
Crusher can't get any episodes.
Yeah, he was co-executive producer for 30 episodes from 87 to 92 and created the Borg character. That's the guy who created the Borg character.
Borg. Oh my God.
He did Point Man in 95. Baywatch Nights.
Yes.
Executive producer. La Fun Nikita, 6 episodes. He was a writer. Baywatch, exactly, from 99 to 2000. He did executive producer. He did the movie The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and what's her name? Miss Congeniality. She did some other stuff. She was
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yeah. I was gonna say she's the wife that gets kidnapped and killed in that one bad movie where the husband's framed for murder. Then he also did 2 episodes 24, and he also did work in on Conquest 2005. Died at 75 years old. He's announced by former Star Trek producer Rick Berman. Married twice to Adrian St. John Greer and then Geraldine Garrett. But also the other main writer for this was actually Charles Leinweiber, who basically wrote No Exit for the series, and then his credits are limited to writing an episode for Murder, She Wrote, and co-producing the TV sport movie called Sporting Chance in 1990, and writing the TV movie The Entertainers in 1991. So that's some of the people behind this. But
it's interesting because, like I said, David Soul directed it, and so you can piece some people together in the room and say, I need an episode for my advice, do XYZ, and boom, and they could bang it out, right? And then we take a show like Reacher that costs, 10, 15 million an episode, or where they say it is, and you could say salaries, production values, but it takes 4 months to film, and you're like, wait a minute, that's 20 weeks, and they've got 8 to 10 episodes, so you're like, it takes almost 2 weeks now to film an episode of television. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Here is a week, boom, episode done, sent to print, edited, music put in, licensing, arrangements, all that stuff done. No fucking around. That's the thing about 80s television, man. They could pound those fucking things out of decent quality.
I'm looking at the thugs that are working, the ones that get caught, they get interrogated by Tubbs. Bill Solowski. So he has his debut in this show. He'd go on to do work on Equalizer with Giancarlo Esposito. That's the guy's good name.
Giancarlo Esposito.
He's been he was also on Shakedown, January Man, Gideon Oliver, Quiz Show, New York Undercover, NYPD Blue, Third Watch, King of the Jungle, Deadline, Law and Orders, all of them. Kidnapped, 30 Rock, Law and Order, another one, Person of Interest. This guy still going. Ray Donovan was his most recent one. Yeah, exactly. Kept popping up on there. He was also in Did you also know that he was in Manhunter?
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this guy, Cody Mundy, he pops up again too in Smuggler Blues.
That's coming up.
Yep,
coming up, I think.
And then the FBI agent here too was also in. He plays Leo Christ in this, and the episode Streetwise, he plays in that. But he was in what was he in? Seizure, the story of Kathy Morris, and the period in Muggable Mary, Street Cop with Bill Smuch and Russ Horton and Larry Riley. Then made his movie debut in Tootsie. But they had Norman Parker was the other guy. He plays Nick Pappas in this episode. He appeared in TV series like Family Ties, Baby Boom, Valerie, Falcon Crest, Beverly Hills 210, Star Trek.
Out of the 7 episodes that we've covered, including the two-part pilot episode, where does this kind of rank as far as all that? Out of these 7, is it high, low, medium? Is it just an afterthought? I liked it a lot.
For me, it's just, hey, it's Bruce Willis. Didn't really do much for me as much, Do you feel like I felt like his character performance as being a smug kind of prick kind of reminded me of what was that? Blind Dates a little bit. What he'd go on to do later on in his career, but not as much of an asshole. But like I said, like he kind of came off as a smug kind of thing. And I'm thinking like Bruce Willis should play more bad guys. And I think he did in a later movie in the 2000s. He did play a bad guy finally.
Well, one of our more popular reviews here on the Extreme Movie Show was his phenomenal 1994 movie Color of Night, where he plays a psychologist. But
Color of Money,
no, Color of Night, Color of
Money. Sorry, Color of Night.
So. I made you watch that.
Twice. Every single filthy minute. Catherine Borwitz, who plays his wife, Bruce Willis. If you're not looking at everything on the website here, says she was started in World According to Garp with Amanda Plummer, and then she appeared on Harry and Son, and then she appeared in a miniseries called Evergreen with Brian Denny, Hot House, Law and Order, and then she had Amazing Stories. Then she appeared in Baby Boom, Eternal Affairs with Xander Berkeley, Men of Respect with John Turturro and Dennis Farina, and Stanley Tucci, Quiz Show with Turturro, and Bill Sikowitz, the guy we saw before. He was the goon that gets arrested by them first. They interrogate. And then she did Somewhere Tonight and Fading Gigolo, both with John Turturro again. Her most recent movie appearance was 2014's The Sweet Blood of Jesus. and she still appears in shows billed under her married name of Catherine Turturro because she's married to John Turturro.
John Turturro's wife.
Yeah, I did not know that.
I did not either.
And she has 2 children. One's now a girl.
What did you say?
John Turturro, one of his sons, is now a girl, and she works for DC Comics.
You're getting too deep.
You're getting too deep. Going deep with Turturro. No, this episode, like I said, so far, when I'm now watching the second time, not much of a glow. The first time when I watched it, I was like, cool, Bruce Willis is in this too. I remember talking about this, like, yeah, Bruce Willis in here. And I thought Bruce Willis did a good job. But I said, but for me, this whole entire like episode was really good for Sonny. AKA Don Johnson, because Don Johnson really gets to show his range of emotions, being pissed off, and kind of frustrated and sad and distraught, and just like all in one episode. Especially, I said, like at the very end, he's very like upset because when he finds out that they're just gonna let him walk anyway.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and he's probably thinking in his hand, okay, look at this, she's right. His wife is right, oh shit, he's abusive. He's gonna go out there, he's gonna abuse her again. And he's trying to plead with the FBI agents, you can't let him go and stuff. He's just bullshit. And then when Bruce Willis, his wife, pops up and he says the gun, he's like, oh shit, and he tries to push him out of the way, but it's too late. And you don't get to see the end of that. You just hear the gunshot go off, and that's it. It's like, I'm just saying, it's like, what a great show they had. This show, a lot of close-up facial expressions, stuff like this, which we kind of would make fun of him, as a kid. Like, oh my gosh, scream close-up, like doing Wayne's World.
Yeah. Well, I'll close with this because I liked it a lot more, I think, than you did, and that's cool. I think the cynicism part is what I really remember here. I'm wondering how much that's going to go. There's a thought in investing that's called, if you can't beat the market, just play the market, meaning you invest in whatever your growth fund is and you don't try to beat it because people say you can't do it or whatever. It's not really true, but that's a concept. And I think television, the enemy is some people try to do too many things, or they try to do too big of a world building, and they forget the basics of just be consistent with what you do so people know what they're getting. Yeah. And if you can leave enough room where somebody that has a phenomenal performance, like to me, Bruce Willis did, or something pops you, or a different group, then what happens is your expectation for the show becomes, hey, wait a minute. Characters are a little overacting, a little emotional.
No.
They're starting and stopping love affairs. Don't know what's going to happen with the other characters on the show. We got a new captain, but they play music in here. They've got some good guest stars, and they make Miami a character in and of itself. You've got a good foundation. Because again, this show, I clearly recall this growing up at the time, that it did not take off until reruns. It then got big. So come season 2, they took all these things that worked and said, okay, let's feed all those, and we're just going to leave
music,
all the other things. Exactly. Yeah. And that's when it got so hot, because at that time they had the recognition. And it's like, again, with investing, you get something, you doubles in price, you can sell half your shares, you're still always going to be in the money, but you usually have this expression that you have 1 or 2 big winners, and they cover all your losses. You lose slow, you lose quick, you get out of the investment. But if something's going up and up and up, like my ASTS stock, mobile stock, which has been a 50 bagger for me. I put it out there, check my tweets, timelines over the past 4 years. If you don't believe me, I'm going, you know what? They're living rent free in my mind, because I want to see what the next episode's going to be, because I know what the template's going to be, and it's exciting. And maybe I won't like it maybe as much as you do. I don't know who's in it, but again, it's got all the elements of what we're going to see are going to be in the perfect Miami Vice episodes of the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I want to say this. So I'm watching season 3 right now, and watching the first season, huge tonal shift by season 3. Season 3 became became less like Miami Vice and more like some of the NYPD blues stuff you'd watch in early 90s and stuff. And I was like, what are we doing here? We're going away from the fun stuff. We're just going straight into serious. It's like,
I'll tell you why, I think, honestly, and this is just an idea to chew on. I think it's because of the time it was so big, so massive, and everybody's making so much money. They said, you know what, we're going to play it safe and try to treat it like a serious top show rather than Miami Vice.
Yeah, and
seriously,
it's the saying goes, the longer his hair gets, the worse it gets.
100%. No, and when you put the beards on, forget it.
Yeah,
and it gets so bad.
Yeah,
Sonny's not Sonny anymore.
So
we'll get into that later.
But this was probably the best part of the whole entire episode. With the old guys there and like, what are you guys doing here? And then I just love Zito stuck with Tubbs, and Tubbs is kind of just relaxing. And at first I thought Tubbs was wearing jeans at first.
Looks
those
like
actually, those are his dress pants, I think.
Okay, there's one slide you did not show. It's when he's undercover in the airport. Can you pull that up real quick? That one. Look at those fucking sandals. Those are god tier Floridian sandals. I'm not joking. That's why I put that clip in there, because the hat's one thing, the shirt's one thing, but look at those sandals.
I'm just saying open-toed kind of leather shoots like this, and I'm thinking like, what's this? Where Crocs or this?
These would be more comfortable than Crocs, and they won't give you blisters like Crocs. These will breathe.
But Crocs, look at those seats, man. They're at an airport lounge.
I love it. That's probably Miami International Airport. And I go, I'm sure they closed off parts of it, but there was a time here in Orlando International Airport where you could drive up and it was like this. Way before TSA, let me tell you. But this is just as phenomenal. Those sandals rock. Look at that. If you wore those and slacks, nobody looked an eye at you. Seriously, that's a style of dress that only works.
I'm a guy that always wears. I always wear socks and shoes and jeans.
I hear you, but if you're in South Florida, you would not be doing that. That's what you'd be wearing, sir.
I would be in South Florida. It's like the armpit.
That's Houston, sir. Not Orlando or Miami. It's Houston.
Yes. But
we have, ladies and gentlemen, season 1, episode 7.
You're talking about fashion, though? You're talking about that? You're talking about fashion. What do you think of his jacket, though? His little over his mesh shirt? It's not a normal shirt.
It's a Canadian tuxedo that the internet's been gracing with Chuck Norris memes kicking everybody in Hollywood lately. But it's one of those things where I don't even think about it, because I think they're just trying on different stuff and different blazers. I think Tubbs is a bit more sharp.
The only thing I can think of, though, he's gonna have the most horrible tan on his chest from the little dots exposed where it doesn't get through. He's just gonna have like a checkered chest.
Well, so let's look for Don Johnson's chest the next episode and see.
Yeah,
how about that?
I hope so. Yeah, but I was just gonna say, I noticed, I was like, as I go closer, I'm like, wait, that's not a tank top, that's a mesh thing. What the heck? And I'm thinking, like, at least it's not as bad as the one from Commando.
Well, and everybody jokes about, because I always call that a chainmail vest, and it's really made out of yarn because they didn't have it or whatever.
Yeah,
but there's mesh was a thing in the 80s. I'm telling you.
And of course, his little shirt here too. I see these shirts pop up once in a while. You know,
where's the mesh gone, sir? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
don't let me start another stream.
Yeah, Tony Amato kept thinking, it's like sounds like you're getting close to Scarface there, buddy.
All right, Tuesday night, what do we have coming up?
On Tuesday night, we will be talking about the movie Kickboxer. If you've never watched Kickboxer, I do implore you to go check that out. It is a fantastic JCVD. We have covered it before, but we were off camera. It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I private it a long time because I was like, my mic quality was bad, and I just wanted to get a better, excuse to do it again. Absolutely. Yeah, and so here's the thumbnail for coming up. You're gonna see this go on Tuesday. You'll see this thumbnail here. Go on to that, and so 8 p.m. Eastern. Check that out, and we'll see you guys next time on here.
Yeah, Kickboxer's tremendous. So then Wednesday night, live, the young 20-something Professor Pix and I will be continuing our season 2 coverage of Forever Night. That would be season 2, episode 2. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching, sharing, thanks for retweeting, letting people know we exist here on the stream too. I'm looking forward to next week, RDB, when you and I continue this as well here when we do episode 8, Miami Vice. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, good night now.
Later, guys.